Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I'm also honored, and thanks to the organizer for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important discussion. My name is Rejoyce. I'm a mathematician by background, but I'm also passionate about science communication, particularly within the African context. And thanks, Beverly, for setting the scene for this session. So my presentation is titled Advancing Science Communication in Africa, and I will explore how we can advance science communication in Africa within those parameters, particularly Afrocentricity, inclusion, capacity building, and language. And this talk was inspired by the 2023 Inclusive Science Communication themes. I don't know if many people know about ISC. It's international. It's a global movement that aims to center equity, inclusion, and marginalized perspective in science communication. So it started in US in 2017, and it was small event, and now it has grown to be a global movement. So in 2023, they have 3 themes that I would like to put as a framework. But first, I want to take us to what are the challenges within the African continent when it comes to advancing science communication. Okay, do we have unique challenges? Yes, we do. But most of the challenges, you will all agree that they are global challenges. And the 2023 ISC, it has those 3 thematic areas that they explore. So they see language as an issue. This morning we heard a lot about language. We heard a lot about how do we measure success of our science communication and the issue of trust and on building trust and relationships. So for me, this is a global matter. But if we take it in our continent, there is a one added imperative, which is of social, cultural inclusion. And this is due to the pernicious legacy of colonialism, the legacy that denied Africans access to science. So these are things that are still prevalent in science communication space. Of course, we still have other challenges. We have policy practice gap. We also issue of leadership, and this comes from the policy level, racial inequalities, poor skills among our scientists, and importantly, capacity building. We talked briefly this morning about who is capacitating our scientists to go out there to the public. So, Beverly, you talked about the framework. This is what inspired me when I saw the call for this symposium. So I participated on Inclusive Science Communication in 2023, and I was interested to see how they deep into these 3 thematic areas and how relevant these are globally issues. So we heard a lot about language matters in science communication this month. Indeed, it matters, right? And then it matters because it's a tool that it can be used to access, particularly in STEM, and also it can be a barrier for people in the marginalized communities to access science. And it's also a tool that we can use the language is a tool that we can use in our engagement, research, mentoring, and collaboration and teaching. So in this African scenario, this is critical, as I said, the socio-cultural inclusion. So the language, I think we have over 2,000 languages. So how do we communicate as a scientist within this space where the majority of people, they are the public out there? Most importantly, how do we equip our African scientists within that space? The issue of trust is very critical. It's a fundamental issue in SciComm in terms of getting the impact, particularly when you're dealing with diverse and historically marginalized people. So we talked a little bit about it this morning, but then here in this framework, they're saying we have to build that connection with the people, the marginalized people, to gain that trust. And then I'll also show you the examples of some of the capacity building workshops or programs that we have where we equipped our students to engage with the people there in the street, the indigenous knowledge holder. And the third pillar, which is very critical, and I'm glad the scene was said this morning in terms of what does the success look like in SciComm. So I think we can even have a whole year or a whole month to deliberate on this issue. But then for me, we need to redefine success and move away from the standard traditional metrics. What does it mean? So it means that we need to move away and really look at the qualitative metrics. Not easy, right? The metrics I'm talking about, it has to be centered within the inclusivity as a hallmark of excellence. That means that we need to set gender balance, engagement with the underserved communities, and this is even interesting in South African scenario. According to our science engagement strategy, we have identified 11 publics, if I'm still okay, or 9. And then we have learners, schools, indigenous knowledge holders. The question is, who is reaching those that are out of schools, who are not in the scientific environment? It's a challenge for us, and within the African scenario, it's critical that we look at how inclusive is our science communication. And for me, the paradigm shift here is that if we can reach those neglected ones, that's how we're gonna get excellence and success in measuring science communication. So what have we been doing about this? So in our continent, there are still very few capacity building programs. And as a scientist, as a mathematician, in 2018, I was encouraged after my PhD. I was put on a science slam. You know, science slam, you have 10 minutes. Here you have a PhD, you're bragging about it, they give you 10 minutes, and then, bah, you're a mathematician, rock up with your theorems. Who cares about a theorem? So I was encouraged really about if we want impact, we need to train our students because they are not getting the train in their qualifications. So since then, I've been involved. In my institution, I asked them to give me a position where I'm a researcher, but I'm also public engagement manager. So what do? Our students, they're all coming from all Africa. We train them on science communication with specific on leadership. So it's a program that we partner with African Gong. And what is our philosophy? Our philosophy is guided in Afrocentricity, the way we conceptualize our project, the way we deliver, and the way our students deliver those projects that they do. So they learn by doing. As you can see, it's a very 3-stage program where we have a workshop. After the workshop, this is the good news. After the workshop, all of them, these are mathematician students. People say you can't communicate mathematics. That's not true. So we challenge these students to say they need to look at their community. You can look at there, the top right. That's one student from Nairobi. They conceptualize a project using their mathematical knowledge that they go and engage with the people on the ground. Here it's Tandy, where during COVID, people in church community, there was vaccine hesitancy. She was doing mathematics on graph theory, and she went there, she talked to people, imagine, in the church. So she has to convince people about the mess that they've been doing. So these are things that we measure, that interaction, the trust. She has to gain the trust of the pastor to be given that slot to talk about meds and vaccine. And then people talk about recognition. We make sure that we recognize these students. It could be a certificate to solve that recognition and rewards. And We have been doing this since 2020, and we contributed to this new book. It is a groundbreaking book that has been recognized by SciComm Symposium in September, where we contribute the chapter about our perspective from African perspective when it comes to issue of science communication and how we see as science communication within South African scenario. Thank you very much for your attention.